all's well that ends well, right?
That is incredible.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the best story you've ever told me. You've told me some good ones. Welcome back to the Man in Black podcast. This is episode 8. I'm Josh Mancuso, Todd Blackledge, my co-host and college football expert. So, Todd, how's it going?
Good.
Week 11 just finished, right? So, what a great weekend. Crazy weekend. A lot of stuff happening. What are your thoughts on everything that's kind of played out over this weekend?
Yeah, well, I mean, there were a couple significant games, obviously. I mean, first of all, the top teams held serve again, and there was a little mix-up or change-up in the CFP ranking, but those top 5 teams are all still undefeated this late in the season. I think Georgia had a very impressive win against a good Ole Miss team, just too much form, too physical form. Michigan with a very impressive win going into Happy Valley and beating Penn State. And I think the biggest story of the weekend, though, was what happened with coaches. I mean, Jim Harbaugh was not allowed to coach. Found out when their plane landed in Pennsylvania, stayed at the hotel. Sharon Moore took over as the acting head coach. So that was bizarre. Texas A&M beats Mississippi State 51-10, and Jimbo Fisher gets fired after the game. And Zach Arnett, the coach of Mississippi State, also gets fired. So, the thing with Jimbo, there had been talk about it, and the fact that, for whatever reason, A&M just had not been able to kind of get over the hump. Their AD said they thought they were stuck in neutral, so somebody or some group of people are going to eat a huge buyout of almost $80 million. And then Zach Arnett, and that one really bothers me.
Yeah.
I mean, he was there less than one season, took over for Mike Leach in a very difficult situation.
Yeah.
And not even given one full year. That's not right. That's not right.
I agree. You got to give a guy a full year. How do you even know you haven't even gotten him through, a full recruiting and postseason? I mean, you got nothing. I mean, I don't understand that. What I feel like the expectations for a lot of these teams and the fans and the administration is crazy. I mean, So even Jimbo, of course, everybody's making fun of A&M because they're not near as good as they should be. And especially as was advertised with their big national championship trophy that they've created before he was hired to put his name in later. But I mean, what are they, 6-4? Is that, I think, something like that?
I think they are. Yeah, I think they're 6-4. The problem is, first of all, I mean, looking at those two schools, all right, they are in the same league, they're in the same division, but it's like apples and oranges in terms of resources, fan base, just culture, facilities, all of that. A&M is an elite program in all of that except winning at a championship level. And there's no reason when you see everything A&M has available to them, the recruiting base, they should be an elite team. And they have not been. They've had a couple years where they've kind of flirted with it and kind of had a really good season. They beat Alabama before, but they've not achieved the kind of success that you would have expected and that everybody expected when Jimbo went there.
Yeah. Do you think it's true that a team like Texas A&M is just, they're never going to be able to really rise to the top because they're in the same league as Alabama and LSU in the West, plus they're fighting along kind of at the same level as folks like Auburn and Ole Miss. And then in the East, you've got, Georgia, obviously, and you got Missouri now, who has been able to take that step up. You got Tennessee, who's up there. So, not everybody can be at the top. I mean, it's like look at the Big Ten, Michigan, Ohio State. They're always going to be the two teams at the top. Penn State seems like they're always going to be in that third level, and then Wisconsin, they're all going to, So, is it expectations for these fan bases and for these schools? I mean, who are they going to go get that's going to be better than Jimbo Fisher? I mean, I'm sure there's somebody out there. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either, but I do think that the expectations obviously are through the roof at a place like A&M, but I think they should be. Again, for the reasons I mentioned, what they have available to them, the resources, the fan base, the support, everything, they should be. I remember back before Nick Saban was hired at LSU, I remember talking to Steve Spurrier when he was coaching at Florida. And they played LSU every year, and they were kind of dominating that series against LSU. And I remember Steve Spurrier saying to me one time, if LSU ever hires the right coach, we'll all be chasing them. Now, this was before Saban went to Alabama, obviously. I mean, he was still at Michigan State at the time. When he went to LSU, all of a sudden, LSU became a national championship caliber program. They won a national championship with him there. Then, of course, he went to Alabama, went to the Dolphins, went to Alabama, and has won several more national championships. I think A&M's the same way. I think if they get the right person in there with everything they have available to them, I think they can be a championship caliber team. Now, it's not going to get any easier with Texas, who they compete in every way, shape, or form with, going into the same league that they're in now, starting next year in the SEC. But A&M, from what they have at their disposal, should be an elite college football program.
Yeah. What's crazy is that the $79 million or whatever it is that they've got the money to cover that, which is just mind blowing.
Right.
They're just going to write a check, and I wish I could get paid $79 million to leave a job. We're going to do our next segment, which is called Hats Off. It's a little tip of the cap. Okay, in this segment, Todd and I give our hats off, our tip of the cap, to one player and one team we think had a special day. So do you want to go first, or am I going first?
Will you go first?
I'll go for you. Team, or I'll do my team first. How's that?
You do your team, then I'll do my team, and then you do your player, I'll do my player.
All right, tip of the cap to the UCF, Central Florida Knights. Man, a big old win over Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State coming off that big win at Bedlam over Oklahoma.
Yeah. Maybe
feeling a little too good. I don't know. But it wasn't just that they got beat. They got stomped by UCF 45-3. I mean, that's embarrassing. Plumlee throws for 3 touchdowns. The running back, R.J. Harvey, runs for over 200 yards and 4 touchdowns. Their defense shut down Ollie Gordon. And, man, UCF out of nowhere just taking Oklahoma State to the woodshed. They're my team of the week.
Yeah, that's impressive, and it might be the Man in Black podcast curse, because we talked glowingly about Oklahoma State last week on this very show, and then they went out there and laid an egg. So, okay, right. My team that I'm tipping my cap to are the Michigan Wolverines, and for a couple different reasons. Number one, obviously, just the adversity they faced. And granted, a lot of the adversity they're facing has been self-inflicted. I get that. But still, that team did not know when they got off the plane if they were going to have their head coach or not. And they find out that they're not. They go through their normal pregame. Now you're going to go and play in front of 110,000 people against a top 10 ranked opponent with a really good defense. And they just took care of business, and they controlled the football game.
Yeah.
And so I give them credit. I tip my cap for how they performed. They ran for 227 yards. At one point, they ran the ball 32 consecutive times. They never attempted a pass. They attempted one, and it drew a defensive pass interference penalty. But they had such control of the game with their running game and their defense that they didn't need to throw it. And that leads me to my other reason of why I'm saluting Michigan. I've been doing this a long time, and I've covered a lot of teams with great cultures and, camaraderie and all that. This is the most unselfish, genuinely unselfish team that I think I've ever been around. And you don't have to look any further than J.J. McCarthy, who is a Heisman Trophy candidate. Probably be a guy who's invited to New York, and he was perfectly content handing the ball off 32 times in a row and only attempting 8 passes in a marquee matchup like that. When the game was over, he was as jubilant as anybody on his team. And to me, they are genuinely a team that cares about each other and plays for each other. And this whole stuff that's going on around their program and around their head coach has made them even closer.
I love that. Great pick, man. And the humility, Todd Blackledge, the Penn State legend, choosing Michigan as his tip of the cap for the week after they destroyed Penn State. Man, it was and you called it we shared the clip just, I think this morning, you called it. Penn State's up front, they could not match up with Michigan like they couldn't match up against Ohio State, and Michigan's is even better. So yeah, great pick there. I can't get over Sharon Moore though, crying like a baby into the game.
Some raw emotion.
What's going on there?
Wow. Yeah. The other thing that stood out to me in that post game, it was his emotion, you know, and how raw it was. But then when he brought Blake Corum in, and here's Blake Corum, and he's got that gash in the bridge of his nose and blood trickling down his face. You're like, no kidding, this team won. I mean, you know, all you got to do is look at this guy's face and realize they were not going to be denied today. So,
yeah, amazing. Great pick. All right. Tip of the cap for me to a player is actually two players from the same team, and it is Dylan Gabriel and Drake Stoops. I had the pleasure of being in Norman, Oklahoma for this game, in the stands and on the sideline for part of it, and it was great seeing them play in person. But Dylan Gabriel, just 23 completions for 423 yards, 5 touchdowns in the air, and he ran for 50 yards and got 3 more touchdowns on the ground, 8 total touchdowns. Amazing. It's a program record, just nuts. And against West Virginia, which is not a bad team. I mean, I thought West Virginia would put up a fight, but they stuck it to them. Big scoring game for the offense. And then Drake Stoops, 10 catches, 164 yards, and 3 touchdowns for that guy. A former walk-on, earned a scholarship later. Is in his 6th year, I think, probably as well, 5th and 6th year. So really cool to see both those guys shine and have a big game.
Absolutely, 2 great picks. So my tip of the cap players, probably you're not going to be liking this or be very happy about it, but it's going to go to Cody Schrader, the running back from Missouri, who was a one-man wrecking crew in their 36-7 win over Tennessee. Carried the ball 36 times, 203 yards, and a touchdown. Also caught 5 passes for 116 yards, so well over 300 yards of total offense. And Missouri is legit. I mean,
they are.
They play Georgia as well as anybody has this season. That game was close into the 4th quarter until Georgia kind of pulled away. But Missouri having a great season at 8-2 and a very impressive win against Tennessee this past weekend.
Yeah, as a big win for them. I thought it'd be a lot closer. Missouri just really dominated the game. At the first half, you kind of thought, okay, it's a little bit, it was a 13-7 or something like that, and then it just fell apart for Tennessee in the second half. But I'm going to go back real quick to my trip to Oklahoma. I'm going to show you a video here really quick, Todd Black, of what I got to do at Oklahoma, and it caused me to be out of breath a little bit. So let's pull up that video as I had the opportunity to do something really special there in Norman on the field.
What are we doing? I can't believe this. What's happening? I'm gonna get killed.
I was exhausted.
Why were you so far behind? Is why
I had no idea.
Maybe it was the camera angle, but it just looked like everybody was just smoking you.
I was getting smoked for sure, and
even the mascot, the horse's head mascot, was even just like leaving you behind.
Guys wearing a 100-pound suit, and he's just sprinting by me. And my good buddy Drew was with me, and he was filming behind me. And they were like, "You want to run with us?" I was like, "Sure." And next thing I knew, we were going. And I thought it was like a nice little jog. No, it's a full sprint. And you could hear Drew behind me filming. He's the one going, we're going to get killed. We're going to die. He was like freaking out. And the best part about that is we found out later that security was talking down that they were like, "We've got a random guy on the field. We've got a random guy on the field." But they didn't know the OU Athletics. They were like, no. Like we told them.
You're lucky somebody in a yellow jacket didn't come out and tackle you.
I know, which would have been even better, honestly, for the story and for the video. So I got to run with the Schooner team. Man, they've been good to me. I released a video this week of me hanging out with them this summer. What a cool tradition. I'm excited. We're going to start doing some videos about the different traditions of college football, and
That's a great idea.
Yeah, they've been good to me there at Oklahoma. So the Tennessee fans are a little bit ornery with me right now, me wearing all this Oklahoma gear and going out there and stuff, and they say, "Why don't you doing this with Tennessee?" And I said, "Show me the money. Show me the money."
Hey,
I'll be right
swag
back.
talks. Swag talks.
That's
People
right.
get swag, it talks.
That's right. Swag talks.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna get you some Josh Mancuso gear. You can wear that.
Swag talks, man.
Swag talks, man.
Yeah.
So the college football playoff rankings just were released yesterday. We're recording here on Wednesday, and here they are. Like you mentioned, the main flip here with Georgia going to number one, but you still got the same four: Ohio State, Michigan, Florida State. Anything here in those four, or later that shock you or surprise you, or any notes you've got?
No, really, seriously, nothing surprises me here. I mean, I never would have not had Georgia number one. Until somebody proves me otherwise, I still think they're the best team. And then Ohio State over Michigan at this point, I totally get it because their resume is a little bit stronger, although the win by Michigan this past weekend on the road was impressive, and I think that solidified their position, and Florida State keeps taking care of business, so they've got 2 games left in the regular season. I think they've got North Alabama next, and then their final game of the year with the Florida Gators. And then in all likelihood, they'll be matched up with that number 10 team, the Louisville Cardinals, in the ACC championship game. So, the first 4 is what I thought, 5 and 6 exactly. Texas still ahead of Alabama, even though, Alabama, I think, is getting better and better, but Texas beat them, and so that's why people have them there. And, for Texas, the good news for Texas is they got their quarterback back. Quinn Ewers came back, threw for over 300 yards, played well. The bad news is their top running back, Jonathan Brooks, who had 178 yards, torn ACL in the game, and he's going to be lost for the season. So good news and bad news for the Longhorns coming out of this past weekend.
Yeah, for sure. I've been really impressed with Jonathan Brooks, man. He's a great running back. Texas is always producing great running backs, I suppose. The only thing, as a Tennessee fan, I'm looking at the Vols at 18. It feels too high, to be honest with you. I mean, they ought to be probably dropped. But you got 7-3 teams in here. In Notre Dame, Kansas State, Utah. I mean, it doesn't even matter if these guys aren't going to make it. So it's probably a moot point. But in my particular top 25, which again doesn't matter to anybody except for all the people that argue with me on Facebook and point out all of my wrongdoings, I've got Iowa at 25th there and they've got Iowa at the college football rankings at like 14th or I don't know, somewhere up higher. I seems a little high for Iowa. If we want to go back to Iowa, so it's 16. Seems a little high. I know they've only lost, were they 2 games maybe? But
2 games. They played great defense, but unfortunately for them, I saw a report today that their best player on defense, Cooper DeJean, the defensive back and punt returner, may have gotten injured, maybe lost for the season. And that would be a critical blow because he scores as many points as their offense most of the time. So he would be sorely missed on their football team if that's true.
Yeah. For sure. Well, Oklahoma State hanging in there at 23 despite with their spanking by UCF. It's interesting to see teams like Kansas, Tulane, in there, North Carolina.
Oh, yeah.
We'll see what happens going forward. But we've got a great slate of games coming up here in Week 12, and Todd and I are going to pick these games here. We're going to go maybe talk about them just a little bit, but we're going to pick who we think is going to win these games, and Todd's obviously going to get almost all of them right. I will get a couple of them right probably. So let's get started here. We've got Rutgers at Penn State. This one's up here because Rutgers is a team to be reckoned with. I mean, they're not a pushover by any means. Penn State, they're going to have to, play good to take them out. So thoughts on this?
Well, I really thought Rutgers would go in and play better against Iowa. I thought they'd have a good chance of winning the game, and Iowa dominated them, beat them 22-0.
Yeah.
Totally shut down Rutgers' running game, which Rutgers ran for over 230 yards against Ohio State the week before. They ran for 34 yards against Iowa, 34. So I think as long as Penn State doesn't have too bad of a hangover from the Michigan loss, they're clearly the better team. The game's in State College. I would expect Penn State would win that one in fairly convincing fashion at this point.
Yeah, I agree. I think Penn State comes back from this Michigan loss and plays a team that they're going to be ready to pound. So I think Penn State wins it in 34 yards. I ran 34 yards in that Schooner video that
you did.
showed.
Yeah, you
did. I mean, I could have gotten that. And Iowa with the program record 22 points last week.
They did have over 400 yards of offense, though, so it was a mini explosion offensively.
It's true.
For Iowa, yeah.
So we're both picking Penn State over Iowa.
Yeah.
It seems like a good choice here. Okay, Georgia at Tennessee. Coming into Knoxville. I'll go ahead and give you my pick. I'm going Georgia. It's you can't pick with your heart. You got to pick with your head. Bulldogs come in. It could be a convincing win. Could be 2-3 touchdowns. I don't know, but I'm going Dogs. They're just too strong. Tennessee's a great team, and they're doing fine, but they just don't have what Georgia's got. So boom.
Yeah, I like Georgia. I think Georgia is really starting to play some of their best football. I think their running game is kicking in. I think Carson Beck has played outstanding. He's thrown for over 300 yards just about every game, right? So, and they got Brock Bowers back. He only had 3 catches for 34 yards and a touchdown, but he's back in the fold. So, yeah, I like Georgia. I like Georgia in that game as well.
Yeah. All right. Picking the Dogs for that one. Next up, we've got Louisville at Miami. Upset alert for Josh.
Okay.
I'm going Miami on this. I picked Miami as an upset last week against Florida State. That was a close one, 27-20, I think it was. Florida State got them. It was a bold pick, probably a dumb pick, but I feel like there's something with Miami there. I know with Tyler Van Dyke, he's kind of interception prone. There's some issues, whatever. But I mean, I feel like Louisville, they're going well, but they seem like a team that this could be a time. I think Miami just upsets them. I'm going Hurricanes.
Okay. You know what? I'm going to go with Louisville just so we're not the same on every pick. But your reasoning on that is a pretty good one, because I think Miami is probably better than they've shown or what their record says, and certainly talented enough to win this game. But it's a huge game for Louisville. It's a huge game because, again, they're on a course to potentially be a one-loss team matching up with Florida State in the ACC championship game.
Yeah, Jeff Brom, right? The coach down there. I've learned all these things I've learned from you on this podcast.
Okay.
Next one is North Carolina at Clemson. Clemson with a P. I'm going upsetting. I'm going Clemson. I'm buying stock in Dabo again this week. Clemson gets it done at home in Death Valley. UNC there. You never know what you're going to get with the Tar Heels. I think Cade Klubnik has another big game like he had last week, and they show up and they win. Give me Clemson.
I'm going to take Clemson also at home. North Carolina's 8-2. Drake Mays had a great season. He was brilliant in their overtime win against Duke, 47-45. But I think Clemson at home. I think the Tigers will rise up, and their defense will make life kind of uncomfortable for Drake May.
Yeah, I think so as well. That's UNC and Penn State were my two surprise teams at the beginning of the year. I thought might do well. They're both 8-2. They're having good seasons. But I was picking them to maybe even be like a potential contender, but not. It's too late for that. All right, UCLA at USC. Southern California teams battling out there in Los Angeles. I'm picking USC for this. UCLA is definitely just kind of fallen short here recently. I thought they were a little better earlier in the year, but USC is probably tired of losing, and maybe they're going to get a home game against their in-town rival. I think USC drums them pretty good.
Okay. I'm going to go with UCLA just, again, to pick somebody different. And that way, if you get more right than me, you can have all the bragging rights, which I'll be fine with. There's a lot of rumbling right now this week that Chip Kelly is not going to make it through the end of the year at UCLA, or this will be his last year. They've had a good defense all year. Their offense has been up and down, but I'm going to go with UCLA on the strength of their defense in this one to get the win.
Yeah, good pick. Solid pick. I think, we can't all pick the same ones, even though, my expertise here is probably leading the way for you to also want to pick like me, but you're withstanding the urge, which I think is very professional.
Right.
Another in-state rivalry, Kansas State at Kansas. I'm taking the Wildcats on the road at Kansas. I don't really have a good reason why. I just think that they're going to win.
Yeah. I'm going to take Kansas State too. I think they're just a more physical team. Kansas, you know, there was once upon a time in college football when these teams both stunk. I mean, they were perennially some of the worst teams in college football. Bill Snyder turned things around when he went to Kansas State, and they've stayed pretty good and pretty relevant. Kansas, Lance Leopold's done a phenomenal job resurrecting them. And so, I mean, these are two good football teams, and that will be a highly entertaining game in Lawrence. But I'm going to go with the Wildcats as well.
Okay, good. Leopold is a name that probably is being thrown out for the Texas A&M or Mississippi State job, along with 1,000 other names that I guess we'll see how that happens. But you're a big fan of his, and I've just now gotten to know him. He's a good coach.
Yep, sure. Excellent coach.
Pac-12 matchup here. Washington trying to stay undefeated, going to Oregon State, and boom, 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 upset alert. We're going to shake up the playoffs right here, right now, this Saturday. Oregon State takes out Washington and pulls them out of the playoffs altogether, setting up potentially out of the playoffs altogether, setting up a Oregon versus Washington probably in the Pac-12 championship, both with one loss. I'm going to Oregon State. The Beavers and DJ Ugalalati is going to have an outstanding game.
Nice try.
But it's going to be their running back, whose name I don't remember, but I know that he's very good. And I think they're going to run the ball, and it's just a home game for Oregon State Beavers, and it's just, why not? Let's just go Beavers.
See, if you would have taken Washington, I would have taken Oregon State, because I think this is a perfect upset game, because not only is Corvallis a hard place to get to and to play, but Oregon State's good. I mean, they're a very good team on both sides of the ball. But I'm going to take Washington. I'm going to believe on Michael Penix Jr. and the Washington offense to find a way to get it done against the Beavers.
Well, that's a good pick. I mean, they're undefeated for a reason, but not after this Saturday.
Okay.
Blackledge. Okay.
You might be right. If you'd have taken the Huskies, I'd have taken the Beavers.
You'd have gone the other way. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's cool. All right. Still in the Pac-12, Utah at Arizona. Very intriguing game. Wouldn't have been maybe even been picking this game earlier in the year until Arizona just showed up and said, hey, we're really good at football this year. And everybody was like, oh, yes, you are. Come on in. I'm picking the Wildcats to win. I've picked them the last 3 weeks that they've won, and I'm just going to keep picking them until they lose. Put them against Alabama, I'm still going to pick them. I'm going to pick them every week until they lose. So Arizona Wildcats getting it done against the Utes of Utah.
Yeah, I'm going with the Utes. I'm going to go with Utah. They had a tough loss this past week, but they played well against Washington. And I think at the end of the day, they're still a little bit of a notch above Arizona. I'm impressed with what Jed Fish in Arizona has done this year, and they've had a really nice season, but I think Utah is a little bit too tough for them.
Yeah. Jed Fish to Texas A&M? Is that also another option? What about Todd Blackledge to Texas A&M? You want to get back into coaching a little bit?
No, I don't. I like what I do.
What if I was your associate head coach, offensive coordinator even?
You can maybe be the assistant to the assistant, kind of like Dwight Schrute. You can be like the assistant to the assistant coach.
Yeah. Okay. I walked right into that one. Okay. Yeah. All right. Fine.
And you can do play-by-play for the games also. So you could do both.
Right.
You could be up at the booth doing play-by-play for the radio broadcast, and then also be the assistant to the assistant head coach.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you remember when we talked about during our video about how I could be the play-by-play guy. I mean, I'm auditioning right now. It's why I started this podcast with you. It's all just a big audition for me to try to be your new, but just Noah Eagle guy. Get out of here. 80 years of broadcasting experience, working his whole career to get to this point, only to have a comedian come in and swipe his job from him. So
done. Out.
Yeah, done. Okay. We're going to pick this game just because who knows what can happen. It's the SEC. It's every Saturday. But Florida at Missouri. Missouri, is amazing. But Florida, again, they sometimes will show up and just surprise some people. And then other days they'll look like they've never played football before. So I don't know what to do here. I'm going to go Missouri. I'm sure you will too. But still, you never know what can happen.
Florida's definitely talented enough to win that game, but I'm going to go with Missouri as well. I like what their team looks like this year. I like how they play defense. I like how they play offense. They got a receiver, Luther Burden the third. I think he's a sophomore, a young guy, really, really talented. One of the best receivers in the country. And I like Missouri.
Yeah, very good.
I like your coach's name too, by the way. Eli Drinkwitz. I just think that's a cool name for a coach. You don't hear that every day, right?
It is. Full name is Elia, Eliah, I think. Elia,
yeah,
something like that. But Eli, yeah, it's a lot easier to say. Drinkwitz. First time I heard it, I was like, he drinks what?
Yeah.
What's he drinking?
He drinks with his friends.
He drinks with his friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, there's two comedians.
Any more games?
We got two more games. What's next? Duke at Virginia. I'm going, since I've just been going first, I am taking the Cavaliers. Duke is probably a better team, more complete team, but Virginia is finding ways to win, which has been interesting, and big fan of Tony Elliott and rooting for them. So give me Virginia.
Okay. I'll take Duke. I like Mike Elko. We still don't know. Riley Leonard has not really been healthy, hasn't been able to play, but I just think Duke's a little bit better. So I'll take the Blue Devils. Defense travels. Yeah. They got a really good defense, and even if your offense is a little up in the air or inconsistent, if your defense is consistent, then I think you'd be all right. Of course, they gave up 47 to North Carolina last week, so I don't know how good that defense is. But
it's true.
Anyway, I'll take Duke.
Taking Duke. Good pick. Okay, final pick of the day is Appalachian State at James Madison, a big game. App State typically maybe coming in with a better record than in past years. They've had a better record than they have now. I think they're 6-4. James Madison 10-0, trying to stay undefeated. Upset alert coming. I'm thinking App State goes to whatever the name of the town is over there.
Virginia, somewhere in Virginia.
And Harrisonburg, Virginia, and takes out James Madison. So no more undefeated season for JMU. I'm taking the Mountaineers of App State. Let's go.
Okay. Hey, that's a good pick. I mean, App State kind of has that, kind of that history, that tradition of being a giant killer, and winning some big games like that. But I believe in James Madison. I believe in Coach Signetti and what they've got going there. I think there's a lot of momentum. They're a great defensive football team, and it starts with that. And I just think there's going to be enough momentum and pressure that I'm hoping that the NCAA will kind of back off of their rule and allow James Madison to play in a bowl game, because I think they deserve to be in a bowl game, even though they haven't been a Division I FBS team for long enough. Technically, this kind of a season deserves to be rewarded with a bowl game, and I think they'll stay undefeated this week.
I agree. It's even more of a reason to give them opportunity to get into a bowl game because they've done it so quickly. Okay, so I'm going App State. You're going JMU. Good picks, Todd. So that's it for that. So next, we've got a bit of a crazy story here coming out of Arizona, which I thought I'd love to get your take on it. The financial woes, this is reported by Front Office Sports, at Arizona could cause them to cut sports programs. We're looking at Arizona Wildcats facing a $240 million school-wide shortage following significant miscalculations in their financial modeling. What does that mean?
Yeah.
I don't know, but how do you mismanage that much money and end up that much in the hole on accident?
Yeah, first of all, I don't know that there could be a greater understatement ever than the significant miscalculations of this. I mean, that is putting it lightly, $240 million. But yeah, Arizona is one of several teams leaving the Pac-12 that's going to the Big 12 that's going to be financially rewarding for them and will really boost their overall athletic budget, but that doesn't kick in for a while. And so in the meantime, there's obviously a problem there. And unfortunately, the sports that will suffer are the lesser sports, the lesser Olympic sports. I mean, football and basketball aren't going anywhere. I mean, they're important. And they also, in football, still drives the train in terms of making the money for the entire athletic program. But I think I read in that article that Arizona has 23 varsity sports, and that's 5-6 more than the average team in the Big 12.
Yeah.
And so hopefully none will be impacted, but it sure sounds like that's a real possibility.
I know, man. You hate to be the guy that messed that up. Sorry, I forgot to add a decimal there. And now we're 240. Looks like their operating budget's like $100 million a year. So $240 million. That's a lot of 2.5 years worth of money right there. So I don't know what's going on there. It's a good thing I'm not in charge of that, because we'd be even less in the hole, even more in the hole, I should say. Okay, so let's get to the Michigan update here real quick. You mentioned earlier Harbaugh being suspended, last minute, I guess you would say, from the game against Penn State. He said he didn't know about it until he saw it on social media. And what's next? I mean, he's been suspended one game. Is it just one, or are there more games already being put in there?
Well, the suspension was for 3 games. The suspension was for the last 3 regular season games, which would have been Penn State, this week's game at Maryland, and the last week at home against Ohio State. I think Michigan and their law team is meeting with a judge or before a judge in a hearing on Friday. I think Jim Harbaugh is actually planning to be there and to speak at the hearing if he's allowed. And so they're waiting to see if they can get an injunction from this judge that would maybe, allow him to be on the sideline in one or both of the last 2 games. But as it is right now, the Big Ten suspension that was handed down was for 3 regular season games.
Do you think that's going to impact the way the players play and the coaches coach? It sure didn't impact it against Penn State, but going forward, can they continue that as a team, do you think?
Well, look, they showed me a lot in how they handled it last week. And Sharon Moore, did a great job of, people got to remember, Sharon Moore, this is his first year as being the full-time play caller. Last year, he shared those duties with Matt Weiss. This is his first year doing that. Then he also put on the extra hat of being the head coach, but he's also the offensive line coach. And I just know, with my dad being a former offensive line coach, in between series, you like to go over and sit on the bench and talk to those offensive linemen, get a feel for what did you see? What are they doing? How do we react? Sharon Moore couldn't really do that. He had to keep the headsets on because now he's got to watch what the defense is doing, and the whole head coaching role is different. So that's a lot on his plate. And they did well, and the team showed great resolve and great unity. But, a lot of people say, well, Harbaugh can coach during the week, and, they don't really need the head coach, per se on game day. There's not that much that the head coach makes a difference. I kind of beg to differ on that a little bit. And the Big Ten wanted to make sure, they wanted to hand out a punishment. It was directed towards the university, but it actually affected Jim Harbaugh. But they didn't want to punish the players, right? That was kind of obvious. They didn't want to take away from the players. But I think to a certain degree, not having your head coach does punish the players, particularly if he's a forceful presence like Jim Harbaugh, and there are decisions that need to be made, whether to go for it on 4th down, whether to punt, those kind of things, whether to try an onside kick, whether to try a trick play, all those kind of things. Those are the head coach's responsibilities. And in crunch time, that's his job. And so, and again, I just think there is a certain aspect of him being there, or any head coach being there, for his presence that is meaningful to the team. So we'll see what comes of it. I know his team will play hard, and I know they'll play with great sense of chip on their shoulder. But I'm sure they wish their coach was there as well, and particularly for the last game. The Ohio State.
Yeah, and that could be a difference maker, possibly. Obviously, him not being down there for that game. But yeah, as a player, a former player, as a player, you still, your coach means something to you on the field. He's still the one, giving you high fives. He's still talking to the players. And just his presence down there, him not being there. Players, all they need is one little motivating factor for them to say, okay, we're going to play for this, right? With a chip on their shoulder, like you said. And so we're going to play for our coach, who's not allowed to be here. Well, now we're ticked off at this whole situation, and we're going to go out here and we're going to take it out on this other team. And Michigan embodies that. It's been, I'm with you. It's very impressive to see how they responded to all that on the road at Penn State and State College, and played really well as a team. So they look unstoppable, really.
Well, they'll have to do it again this week, because they go to Maryland, and Maryland got a big win, this past week against Nebraska. And, they had really kind of fallen off after their loss to Ohio State and couldn't seem to get it back, but they're talented. Maryland's a talented team. They have the most experienced quarterback in the Big Ten, and Talia Tagovailoa. So if he's on and if he's hot, they can play. And they played well against Michigan last year up in Ann Arbor. So Michigan's going to have to bring it to the same degree and the same, level of intensity and execution that they had in State College. You're going to have to bring that the next 2 weeks to stay undefeated.
To keep it going. Yeah, keep this dream alive of a national title. So, well, here's a few scenarios. I put this out on Twitter. I did 3 different scenarios. Just wanted to see what people thought. Who wins this matchup? And I did Georgia versus Michigan. 322 votes there, but 86% said Georgia, 13% said Michigan, which I thought was interesting. Of course, my audience might be a little bit SEC heavy, so that could be certainly playing into that. But that's kind of a shocking amount. I would probably pick Georgia, but I think it'd be a close game.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people probably are going this way, be thinking about when these two teams played the last time in the college football playoff in 2021. That was an incredible Georgia team, and it was a different Michigan team. I don't think this is the same Georgia team, although I think they're the best team in the country, and this is definitely not the same Michigan team that they faced 2 years ago. So I think it would be a much more of a toss-up game if those two played again in the playoff this year.
Yeah, it'd be a close one. The next one I put out for the folks to answer on was Alabama versus Washington, hypothetical. 428 votes, and Alabama got 69% of the votes compared to Washington's 30%. Again, you're talking about a Washington team that's currently undefeated and an Alabama team that is getting better, which is really unfortunate for everyone else because Alabama is getting better with every game. So again, SEC bias maybe a little bit there with my crowd, but what are your thoughts on that? What would you see in that kind of matchup?
Well, I think you're right. I think your audience is very skewed to the SEC. However, I would probably go with Alabama if those two teams played tomorrow as well, because I think Alabama's better defensively. I think their defense has been outstanding all year, and I think Jalen Milroe is playing his best football. There's a case to be made that this year has been Nick Saban's best year of coaching ever. And all the good teams he's had, because this is a team who did not look very good and had a quarterback problem when they lost to Texas. Then they went to South Florida and won, but barely won. And, their quarterback situation was a mess. And after that game, he named Jalen Milroe the starter, and he's like, we're going to ride with this. And that kid has gotten better and better and better. And now he's, producing lots of yards and points and touchdowns, and their defense continues to play well. So I think Alabama is playing their best football, and I actually think Alabama's got a great shot in the SEC championship game against Georgia. I think they match up really well with them.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be a pretty exciting game. I plan on being there, and it could be a close one. The last hypothetical that we put out there, maybe the most intriguing, who would win this matchup, Florida State versus Ohio State. And Florida State edged them out 51.8% to 48.2%, and would be a fun game to watch, I think. But I would maybe give the edge to Ohio State myself in this one. But what would you like to see in this type of matchup?
Well, I've not seen Florida State in person, so it's a little harder for me. I've seen Ohio State twice, and I think they're really good, and I think they're getting better. I think as they get healthier, they're getting better on offense. And I think they've been outstanding on defense. The best thing they've done on defense, this is a team that doesn't have a lot of sacks. They don't have a lot of interceptions, but they do get pressure, and they do not allow big plays. They're the only team in the country that has not allowed a pass play of 40 yards or more. And then they do a great job of making you just kind of earn your way down the field and then make a mistake. And so they've done a great job all season defensively. And I think offensively, Kyle McCord, the first-year quarterback, that last week, the game that we did against Michigan State, that was the best he's looked, in my opinion, all season. He was sharp, decisive, very accurate. Marvin Harrison Jr., I think, is the best player in college football. Don't know that he'll win the Heisman. He's got a good chance of getting my vote, but I think he's the best player in college football. And, they've got Travion Henderson back now. Cade Stover, their tight end, is back. And now they just got to get Emeka Egbuka back to 100%, the other receiver, and they'll be hitting their stride. So I kind of like Ohio State.
Yeah, good analysis there. I think, I'd love to see Marvin play in person. I've not been able to do that, but he I'm sure reminds everybody of his father quite a bit. The way maybe he's better than his dad. I think that's
it's I don't know that he's different, and that's the thing that's unique.
Yeah.
Marvin Sr. was a smaller receiver. Marvin Jr. is 6'4". He's a big dude, but he's got great speed, and he's an outstanding route runner, which is what his dad taught him. His dad taught him how to be a receiver, but he taught him how to run routes like a small receiver, because most big receivers are not good route runners. They use their body, they kind of win jump balls and 50-50 balls, but they're not precise route runners. Marvin Harrison Jr. is, because his dad taught him how to be that kind of receiver.
Yeah, I love that. I was a receiver, you knew that, right? And being as big as I am, I used my body quite a bit.
Yeah.
Of course, my 5'11" frame to really kind of box out defenders. No, it is true, though, as a receiver, if you can't get open, you're not catching any passes. So you got to be able to find that hole and find that spot. And, yeah, he seems to do that really well. I didn't realize – I thought he was like 6'1" or 6'2". I didn't realize he was 6'4".
He's big. Yeah, he's a
big fella. Well, that's gonna help him out at the next level. It's time for our final segment before we sign off here. It is time for Ask Todd.
It's time to Ask Todd.
All right, my friend, we got two questions for you. One is more of a personal question. Which athletic achievement are you most proud of? Todd Blackledge.
Yeah. Well, I think it's pretty easy answer for me. Being the quarterback of Penn State's national championship team in 1982. It was the first official national championship team that Penn State ever won, that Joe Paterno ever had. They won it again in 86. Those are the only two they've ever had. So to be the starting quarterback on that team in 1982 and win the first one, we beat Georgia and Herschel Walker in the Sugar Bowl. And it was just a crowning achievement, for not just me, but all of us that, that had been a part of the Penn State football program.
Love that. And not just that you were the starting quarterback on that team, you led that team to a national championship. So huge. I mean, very few players get to do that. So congrats to you. And that was the same year you won the Davey O'Brien Award. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. But kudos to you for picking the team award as your most proud achievement. Very cool, man.
Yeah.
I wasn't at that game, I don't think. The championship game, did you play it?
Did I ever tell you the story of the championship game and afterwards?
I don't know. Maybe, but
I'll take so. But I'm gonna. Let's do our other question first, and then I'll come back.
You want to come back? Okay. All right. So
I'll tell you that story as we ride off into the sunset. You'll love it.
It's perfect. Okay. Our final question deals with our second favorite thing besides football, and that's food. What are the non-negotiables for Thanksgiving food? What's got to be on the table for you? There's a lot of things out there.
Yeah.
What's got to be there for you to partake?
Well, I mean, turkey. I've got to have turkey, and I've got to have great stuffing. I'm a big dressing. Yeah, I love dressing, and then pumpkin pie. Yeah, those are my three gotta haves. I mean, all the other side stuff, I don't care what's there. I mean, I'll get a little bit of everything, mashed potatoes, gravy, whatever. But turkey, stuffing, pumpkin pie, that's what I need. Yeah,
I love it. I'm not really a stuffing guy, but I love the turkey. I love the ham. Do you cranberry sauce?
I'm not a cranberry guy. No,
not a cranberry guy. Okay. I've become a cranberry sauce guy. I'm into it. But really, all of that, I would take out all of it if I could just have pumpkin pie. Yeah. That's enough for me.
Do you put whipped cream in your pumpkin pie?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I knew we were friends for a reason. I'll be at your house for Thanksgiving. Okay, let's take off the story in here.
All right, here's my story. So, 1982 Sugar Bowl, we win. Game's over. We're just enjoying the moment, right? I mean, we're just standing on the field, loitering, just enjoying, hugging each other, the band's playing, cheerleading, just loving it. So now we finally make our way into the locker room. Coach Paterno talks to us. Now we got to go do media and all that stuff. It's not nearly as overblown as it is now, but so myself and Greg Garrity, who caught the diving catch in the end zone that sealed the game for us. Great little receiver. We are the last two guys to finish interviews, and we come back to the locker room, and we're both sitting there, and again, just taking our time, just soaking in the moment. When we realize, we come out of the shower and get dressed, that we're the only two guys on the team left in the locker room. And now the equipment managers, they're still in there putting stuff away, and we say to Tim Shope, our equipment manager, "Hey, Shopey, where's everybody at?" "Oh, they left," and the bus was gone. The bus had already left to go back to the hotel.
What?
So we're like, what are we gonna do? He says, "Well, you can wait and come with us, but we're gonna be done for about an hour." Well, there was a party that they were having for the whole team back for team and family. I said, "No, man, we got to get out of here." So he and I walk outside. We both have a suit and tie on. I'm carrying the MVP trophy. He's got the game ball. We both have a cigar in our mouth, and we walk outside the Superdome, and it's kind of drizzling, and we start walking. We're going to walk back to the hotel. And a van pulls up and stops by us, and a guy rolls the window down, and it's two guys in the front seat and two kids in the back, two boys, and they're like, "Hey, you guys need a ride?" I'm like, "Yeah, we do. Where are you going?" "Well, we're going down here to the Sheraton Hotel." I said, "All right, hop in. We'll give you a ride." So we jump in. We come to find out these two guys, they're big Tennessee fans, and they had just come down for the game. They just came down to watch the Sugar Bowl, and they had their boys with them. And so we chatted it up, on the way back to the hotel. "Hey, thank you very much. That was really awesome. Thanks. All right, go to the party, fly home, everything." All right, fast forward, okay? That was 82. This is maybe whatever year. What was the year Tennessee won the national championship with Team
98.
98. So this is 16 years later. I'm working at ABC at the time in the studio, working with John Saunders. And our PR guy comes down to me, and we're a couple weeks away from the national championship. And our PR guy comes down to me and says, "Hey, do you know this guy's name?" I'm like, "No, I don't know that name." He says, "Well, this guy has called like several times. He wants you to give him a call. He's left his name and his number. He said something. He left some information about he and his son gave you a ride, you and Greg Garrity a ride or something after the Sugar Bowl." I'm like, "Oh, that definitely happened. That 100% happened."
That's real.
I said, "Give me the guy's number." So I called him, and 16 years later, he's like, "Hey, I just wanted to see, we're big Tennessee fans. Is there any way you can help us get tickets for the national championship game?" So I was able to get 4 tickets for him and his friend and their kids. And I think the game was in Arizona, and we did our studio show out there. And so right before we went on the air, I got a chance to get reunited with him and say hi. I said thanks again for the ride. He said thanks for the tickets, and all's well that ends well, right?
That is incredible.
Yeah.
That's the best story you've ever told me. You've told me some good ones.
Yeah.
Man.
And now there's no way in 2023 that two, college football players should ever think about walking anywhere at midnight in New Orleans, leaving the Superdome and walking down the street. Would not be the wisest thing in the world to try to do. Or get in a van with two
random guys. I know, stranger danger, especially Tennessee fans. You just get in there with some Tennessee fans. And carries a trophy down the street. You were just going to walk back to your hotel room in the rain, carrying the MVP trophy.
Yeah, right.
That's incredible. And it wouldn't happen today. Wow. Awesome. Thanks for taking us out with a bang, Todd Blackledge. You're a legend. And you guys make sure you subscribe and watching our podcast every week, the Men in Black podcast. We'll see you next week.